Hey, my name is Axel Reed. I'm 25 and I fix air conditioners for a living in Portland, Oregon. It's not glamorous work, but it pays the bills and keeps my hands busy. Most days I crawl through attics and basements, sweat through my shirt, and come home to a quiet one-bedroom apartment that smells like whatever I microwaved the night before. I don't have a dramatic love life. I don't go on dates that turn into stories worth telling. I just work, eat, sleep, and occasionally hang out with my best friend Marcus Bennett. Marcus and I have been tight since college. He's the loud one. I'm the quiet one who actually shows up when he needs something. When he moved to Denver last year for a better job, I thought things would change between us. They didn't. Not really, because even though he left, his mother stayed. And somehow, without either of us planning it, I became the person who looked after Mia Bennett when Marcus couldn't. Mia is 46. She owns a small bakery on Hawthorne called Flour and Salt. She's sharp, funny in that dry way that catches you off guard, and she has this habit of saying exactly what she's thinking before you've had time to prepare a defense. Her hair is usually pulled back in a loose knot, and she has these warm brown eyes that always look like they're 2 steps ahead of whatever conversation you think you're having. I've known her for years. At first, she was just Marcus's mom, the woman who cooked too much food and forced leftovers on me every time I visited. After Marcus left, I started stopping by the bakery to fix her fridge, change light bulbs, or carry 50-pound bags of flour up from the basement. It became routine. She'd call when the mixer made a weird noise. I'd text when I needed a birthday cake for someone at work. Sometimes I'd show up after a long shift and she'd be testing a new pasta recipe upstairs in her apartment, and I'd end up being the unwilling taste tester. That Thursday night, I had just walked through my front door, jacket still on, when my phone lit up with a video call from Marcus. His face appeared, messy room behind him, half-eaten pizza on the coffee table. "Dude, you gotta go check on my mom," he said, without greeting. "She's trying to install a new coffee machine and I'm pretty sure she's about to burn the whole block down." I laughed. "She called you?" She texted me a picture of the manual like it was written in ancient Greek. "Go save her before she sues the manufacturer." I sighed, grabbed my keys, and drove the 15 minutes to Mia's place. She opened the door wearing a cream-colored sweater, hair tied back loosely, holding the thick instruction manual like it had personally offended her. "Axel," she said, relief and exasperation mixed in her voice. "I swear this machine was designed by someone who hates humanity." I smiled. "Give me the screwdriver before you file a lawsuit." Her kitchen smelled like cinnamon and old coffee. Warm, lived in. I knew every inch of it by now. The loose handle on the left cabinet, the chipped green mug she refused to throw away, the basil plant by the window that only survived because I secretly watered it when I visited. She knew I drank my coffee black, hated raw onions, and pretended to hate romantic movies but always watched them to the end. I took the machine apart, checked the water line, tightened a few connections. Mia stood at the counter watching me work while occasionally making comments like I was performing open-heart surgery instead of fixing a coffee maker. After it was working again, she decided to test a new pasta recipe. I sat on the edge of the counter, the spot she always told me not to sit on, and watched her move around the kitchen like she was conducting an orchestra. "Don't look at that pan like you're judging it," she said without turning around. I didn't say anything. "You're breathing like you have opinions." "I'm allowed to breathe." She glanced over her shoulder. "Not that kind of breathing." Everything felt normal, too normal. I had been in this kitchen so many times that the rhythm of her movements was familiar. The way she hummed when she stirred, the way she tasted the sauce and made that little face when it wasn't quite right yet. I knew her, and she knew me. Her phone buzzed on the counter while she was busy with the sauce, hands covered in red. "Axel, can you check who's texting me? If it's Marcus, tell him I haven't died from pasta yet." I picked up the phone and froze. The lock screen lit up. It wasn't a landscape. It wasn't a photo of Marcus. It wasn't a family picture. It was me. A photo from Marcus's cousin's wedding back in June. I was wearing a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up, standing under string lights in the backyard, one hand holding a chair, the other steadying a speaker that had come loose. I hadn't even known anyone was taking the picture. In it, I was looking down, smiling at one of the little ring bearers who was panicking about his speech. I stared at the screen like I'd forgotten how to read English. Behind me, Mia was still talking. If it's my sister, don't answer. She'll just ask if I'm coming to brunch this weekend, and I'm not emotionally prepared to hear her analyze my love life again. I didn't answer. She stopped stirring. When she turned around and saw the phone in my hand, saw my face, everything in the room shifted. She moved fast, too fast, and almost slipped on the small rug by the sink. She snatched the phone from my hand, locked the screen, and slapped it face down on the counter like it had betrayed her. "I can explain," she said quickly. Then she closed her eyes and winced. God, that sounded even worse out loud. I slid off the counter. I didn't move closer, but I didn't step back either. "You don't have to explain if you don't want to," I said. She looked at me. "Don't do that calm, understanding thing." "What thing?" "The thing where you pretend you're not shocked, so I don't feel embarrassed." "But you saw it. I know you saw it. And the sauce behind me is about to become crime scene evidence." I glanced at the stove. "Yeah, the sauce isn't helping the situation." She pointed the wooden spoon at me. "Don't joke." "You started it." She brought her hand up to her face, then immediately dropped it when she remembered it was covered in sauce. A streak of tomato ended up on her cheek. "You have sauce on your face," I said. "Don't look at me." Too late, I already did. The air was strange, funny, and tense at the same time. But underneath the jokes, I could see it clearly now. Mia Bennett, the woman who always had a comeback for everything, was standing in her own kitchen looking at her phone like it had just exploded. And for the first time in years, I wasn't sure what to say next. I reached over and turned off the burner. The sauce had started to smell like regret. Mia didn't stop me. She just leaned back against the counter, twisting a paper towel between her fingers until it was a tight little ball. The kitchen felt smaller than it had 10 minutes ago. I asked the question before I could talk myself out of it. "How long has that picture been there?" She didn't look at me right away. Her eyes stayed on the crumpled paper towel in her hands. "Since after the wedding," she said quietly. "Marcus's cousin's wedding. In June." June, that was 5, almost 6 months ago. I ran the math in my head. 5 months of me texting her about random things. 5 months of late-night calls when she couldn't sleep. 5 months of me stopping by the bakery with coffee and her pretending she hadn't already made a fresh pot because she knew I liked it stronger. Every single time her phone lit up with my name, that photo had been staring back at her. I swallowed. "Why that picture?" She let out a slow breath and finally looked up. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. "Because that night you were difficult to ignore." I frowned. "Difficult?" She gave a small, almost embarrassed laugh. "Difficult in the way that makes people notice. The wedding was a mess. Marcus was drunk by the appetizers. The groom forgot the rings. My sister cried because the flowers were the wrong shade of pink. And you just moved through all of it. Fixing the sound system. Finding seating cards. Calming down that little ring bearer who was about to cry. Carrying chairs. Calling an Uber for Aunt Linda. And then walking me out to the parking lot because the path was dark and I was wearing heels I should have thrown away years ago." I shrugged, uncomfortable. "I was just helping." "That's exactly the problem," she said. She set the paper towel down and crossed her arms over her chest like she needed something to hold on to. "Most people do nice things like they're performing. You do them like it's just what you do." That night when I got home, my feet were killing me, my hair was full of bobby pins, and I was exhausted. My phone lit up with a text from you, just one line. "You make it home okay?" That's it, nothing special. But I sat there in my dark kitchen and thought, if there's a man who makes me feel safe without trying, maybe it's you. She paused. I could hear the faint music still playing from the small speaker on the shelf. Some old jazz song neither of us was really listening to. Mia continued, her voice lower now. "After the divorce, I stopped dating. Not because no one asked, because the men who asked always wanted something from me I didn't want to give. Some of them wanted me to be softer, less opinionated, less busy, less me. Others looked at me like I was a lonely middle-aged woman who needed to be rescued. Like their presence alone was supposed to be some kind of gift." She shook her head. I hated both versions. I stayed quiet. I'd never heard her talk about the divorce like this. Not really. I knew it had been messy, but she'd always treated it like old news. something she'd already filed away. She looked down at her hands. After everything fell apart, I learned how to fix things myself. Pay the bills, eat dinner alone, call the plumber when the pipes burst, lock up the bakery at midnight, live. Not because I didn't want anyone, because I was so tired of letting people in only for them to act like I should be grateful they showed up. Her eyes lifted to mine again. Then you started coming around. You fixed the freezer and didn't make it a big deal. You changed the light bulbs and still let me pay for the parts. You never treated helping me like you were doing me a favor. You asked before you touched anything. You remembered I hate being pitied. And the worst part? She smiled, but it was the kind of smile that hurt to look at. The worst part is you did all of it like it was normal, and that normal made it impossible for me to keep my guard up. I felt something shift in my chest, like a lock I didn't know I had was quietly clicking open. Mia laughed once, short and self-deprecating. I felt insane. You're my son's best friend. You're younger than me. You still call me Mia like it's a title. So I made that photo my wallpaper as a private joke. A way to laugh at myself for having such a stupid crush. I studied her face, the way her shoulders had curled in slightly, the way her fingers kept tracing the edge of the counter like she needed something solid. And now? I asked. Is it still a joke? She looked at the phone face down on the counter. For a long moment she didn't answer, then very quietly, no. The word hung between us. I could feel my pulse in my throat. All the nights I'd sat in this kitchen. All the mornings I'd stopped by the bakery before work just because her coffee tasted better than anything I could make. All the times I told myself I was just being a good friend, a good son figure, whatever safe label I could slap on it. I had been lying to myself for months, maybe longer. Mia saw the look on my face and immediately started backpedaling. If you want to leave, I understand. If you want to pretend you didn't see anything, I understand that too. If this is too weird for you, I get it. I really do. I let out a small breath that might have been a laugh. She stiffened. Are you laughing at me? I shook my head. No. Then what are you laughing at? I rubbed a hand over my face, feeling like the slowest person on the planet. I'm laughing because I think I'm the idiot here. She went completely still. For a second, neither of us moved. The only sound was the low hum of the refrigerator and that same jazz song still playing in the background. Mia's voice came out barely above a whisper. Axel! I looked at her. Really looked. At the woman who had fed me more meals than my own mother ever had. Who remembered how I took my coffee and which movies made me quiet. Who stood next to me at my father's funeral last year and didn't say a single empty word, just stayed there until I could breathe again. I had called all of that friendship. Routine. The comfortable rhythm of two people who had known each other too long to be awkward. But maybe I had been using the safest words I could find so I wouldn't have to look at what was actually underneath. Mia's eyes were shining now. She blinked fast, like she was trying to push it back. I didn't plan this, she said. I didn't wake up one day and decide to feel this way. It just happened. Slowly. And by the time I noticed, it was already too late to pretend it was nothing. I took one step closer, not enough to crowd her. Just enough that she could feel I wasn't running. I'm not going anywhere, I said. She let out a shaky breath that might have been a laugh or a sob. You should. This is a bad idea. Marcus would… I know, I cut in gently. But right now, I'm not thinking about Marcus. I'm thinking about you. And me. And the fact that I've been standing in this kitchen for 5 years pretending I didn't feel exactly what you felt. Mia stared at me like she was seeing something she hadn't let herself hope for. The sauce on the stove had long since cooled. The pasta was probably ruined. Neither of us cared. She reached up and touched her cheek where the tomato sauce had dried. I stepped forward without thinking and brushed it away with my thumb. Her skin was warm. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. Then she whispered, "What do we do now?" I didn't have an answer, not a clean one. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her turn this back into a joke. Not when we had finally stopped laughing. I looked around the kitchen like I was seeing it for the first time. The loose cabinet handle on the left that I had tightened 3 times, and she somehow managed to loosen again. The chipped green mug I had replaced after she dropped the old one. The basil plant by the window that only survived because I watered it when she forgot. my spare key sitting in the small ceramic bowl by the door like it belonged there. This place was full of me. And my apartment? It was full of her too. The cinnamon tea I never drank but kept because she liked it. The dish towel she bought because she said mine looked like it had been through a war. Her light jacket still hanging on the back of my chair from last week. I had been leaving pieces of myself here for years, and she had been leaving pieces of herself with me. I turned back to her. My voice came out quieter than I expected. I never changed your name in my phone, I said. But I think I changed what you were in my head. And then I pretended I didn't notice. Mia stayed still watching me. I kept going. The words felt like they had been sitting in my chest for months, waiting for permission to come out. I kept calling you Marcus's mom because that felt safe. Then I called you my friend, then family, then the person I could drop by without needing a reason. But I was using those words like walls. Every time something good happened, I wanted to tell you first. Not because you'd cheer the loudest, but because you made it feel real. Every time something bad happened, I ended up here. Sitting at this counter, listening to you scold me for eating like a broke college student, and somehow feeling okay again. She let out a soft, watery laugh. You really do eat terribly. I know, I need supervision. Her smile trembled. Her eyes were shining again. I took another small step closer, close enough that I could see the tiny flecks of gold in her brown eyes. Every woman I've tried to date in the last couple years, I said, I compared to you without admitting it. Not in some checklist way, worse. Like they were standing next to the actual center of my life, so none of them could ever fit in the right place. Mia's breath caught. And that center, I finished, has been you. The silence that followed was heavy, but not empty. It felt like something that had been waiting a long time to be said. Mia turned her face away, but I still saw the tears spill over. She wiped them quickly with the back of her hand, leaving a faint streak of sauce on her cheek. I thought I was ruining everything, she whispered. You're not. The dinner is definitely ruined. I glanced at the pot. Yeah, the dinner's definitely ruined. She whipped around. You choose now to insult my cooking? We're being honest tonight, might as well go all the way. She let out a real laugh this time, shaky but genuine. For a second, the tension cracked, and something warmer slipped through. But then the fear came back. I could see it settle over her shoulders like a familiar coat. She wrapped her arms around herself and looked at me carefully, like she was trying to memorize this moment in case it disappeared. So, what now? She asked. What are you going to do with this? With Marcus? With everything? I didn't answer right away. She deserved better than some rushed promise. I don't want to walk out of here and pretend I never saw that phone, I said. And I don't want you to change the wallpaper because you're embarrassed. But I also don't want tonight to turn into some emotional high that we both panic about tomorrow morning. She studied me for a long moment. That sounds very mature, she said. I hate that. I took one more step. Slow, giving her every chance to move away if she wanted. The problem isn't that you use my photo as your wallpaper, I said. She tilted her head, voice barely above a whisper. Then what is the problem? I looked at her, really looked, and said the simplest truth I had. The problem is that under that photo, it says maybe. For a second, she just stared at me. Then she burst out laughing, loud and sudden, the sound filling the whole kitchen. You are impossible, she said, still laughing. I've been told that before. It wasn't a compliment. Still sounded like one. We were standing closer now. The music had shifted to something slower. The ruined sauce behind her was a lost cause, but neither of us cared. I reached up and gently wiped the dried sauce from her cheek with my thumb. Her skin was warm under my touch. You still have sauce right here, I murmured. You're ruining the moment, she whispered back. The pasta ruined it first. She looked at me. This time she didn't pull away. I don't want to keep calling you Marcus's mom in my head anymore, I said. Not just that. Her eyes searched mine. Then what do you want to call me? I took a breath. Mia. Just her name. No title in front of it. No safe distance. The second it left my mouth, everything between us shifted. I leaned in slowly, no rush, no sudden movement. I gave her every chance to stop me. She didn't. Our first kiss was quiet, careful, almost hesitant. Like both of us understood that once we crossed this line, there was no going back to the way things used to be. Her hand came up and rested against my chest, not pulling me closer, just holding on like she needed to make sure I was real. When we finally pulled apart, she opened her eyes slowly. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay means what?" "It means the photo can stay a little longer." I smiled. Still with the maybe? She looked at me, eyes still damp but smiling for real now. "Give me time, Axel." And strangely, that answer made me feel steadier than any rushed promise ever could. I reached for her hand. She let me take it. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't standing in her kitchen as Marcus's best friend. I was just standing there as someone who finally stopped hiding behind safe names. And she was no longer just Mia Bennett, my best friend's mom. She was Mia, and that single change felt bigger than anything that had happened tonight. A week passed. We didn't rush anything. We didn't suddenly start holding hands in public or acting like teenagers who couldn't keep a secret. We moved carefully, like two people learning how to walk on new ground. I still showed up at the bakery. I still fixed the old freezer that kept making that rattling noise. I still sat on the edge of her kitchen counter even though she still scolded me for it. But now when our hands brushed while passing a plate, neither of us pretended it was an accident. When her phone lit up with my photo, she didn't flip it face down anymore. She just looked at me like she was daring me to say something about the caption that still read, "Future husband, maybe." We were both waiting. For what, we weren't sure. Maybe for the right moment. Maybe for the courage we both knew we were still building. Marcus gave us that moment on a Sunday afternoon. He showed up without warning. Typical Marcus. He had a key to his mom's place and liked to surprise her. I was in the kitchen replacing the hinges on the cabinet door that had been crooked for months. Mia was making coffee. Everything looked completely normal. I had been helping her fix things for years. There was no reason for suspicion. Until her phone lit up on the table. Marcus was closest to it. He glanced down. The lock screen glowed. My face. The same photo from the wedding, and right underneath it, in clean white text, "Future husband, maybe." The room went completely still. Marcus picked up the phone slowly, like he wasn't sure he was seeing it right. He stared at the screen. Then he looked at his mother. Then he looked at me. What the hell is this? Mia set her coffee cup down carefully. I saw the color drain from her face, but she didn't run from it. "Marcus," she said, voice steady even though her hands weren't. "I can explain." He gave a short, humorless laugh. "You're using Axel's photo as your wallpaper with that caption? What kind of joke is this?" I stepped forward. "Marcus, just listen." "No." He turned to me, eyes sharp. "You don't talk first. You're my best friend." The words hit harder than I expected, because they were true. "I know," I said quietly. He stared at me. "You knew and you still did this?" Mia spoke up, clearer this time. "Don't put it all on Axel. I'm the one who set the photo. I'm the one who has feelings I shouldn't have." Marcus looked at his mother like she had just spoken a different language. "You're talking about Axel, my best friend. The guy who used to sleep on our couch when he was too drunk to drive home. The guy who helped me move 3 times. That Axel?" "Yes," Mia said. "That Axel." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, pacing a few steps. "Do you have any idea how messed up this is?" "I do," she answered. "I understand. But I also understand what it feels like to be lonely in my own life. And I understand that Axel has been here for years in ways no one else has. I didn't plan this. I'm not proud of hiding it from you. But I can't pretend it isn't real just because it's complicated." He turned back to me. His eyes were red now, not just from anger. "How long have you been looking at my mom like this?" I didn't dodge it. "I don't know exactly when it started," I said. "Maybe longer than I was willing to admit. But I swear to you, this didn't begin because I wanted to betray our friendship. I kept calling it something safe. Friendship, family, anything that let me stay close without having to look at what I actually felt." Marcus let out a bitter laugh. "So what am I in all this? Just an obstacle?" "No," I said immediately. You're the reason I was scared to say anything, because I didn't want to lose you. He looked at me for a long time. Then he set the phone back on the table, face down. I can't give you my blessing, he said. Not today. Mia nodded, eyes glassy. I understand. Marcus continued, voice quieter. But I also don't want Mom to go back to being someone who only lives in that bakery and asks if I'm eating enough. I just need time. Time to get used to the idea that she's a woman before she's my mom. That sentence broke something in Mia. Tears slipped down her cheeks, fast and silent. Marcus left a few minutes later. He didn't hug me. He didn't shake my hand. But he didn't slam the door either. After he was gone, Mia sank into one of the kitchen chairs and covered her face with both hands. Maybe we should stop, she said, voice muffled. I pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. If you want to stop because you don't love me, I'll listen, I said. If you want to stop because this is hard, then I don't think that's a good enough reason. She lowered her hands and looked at me. It was the first time I had called her me so directly, without hesitation. Do you understand what you're choosing? She asked. I'm older than you. I'm your best friend's mother. People will talk. Marcus might never look at us the same way again. I know, I said. But I also know that if I walk away just because other people might not understand, I'll be losing the realest thing I've ever had. She stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, she reached across the table. I took her hand. The real turning point wasn't the kiss in the kitchen last week. It wasn't Marcus finding out. It was this quiet moment where both of us decided we weren't going to let fear win. We sat there in silence, hands clasped on the worn wooden table, while the ruined hinges on the cabinet still waited to be finished. Outside, the afternoon light was starting to fade. Inside, everything had changed. And for the first time, neither of us was trying to hide it. 3 months later, Marcus started talking to me again. At first, it was just short, clipped texts. He asked if I still had his old fishing gear at my place. Then he asked if his mom was doing okay. Then one night, he actually called. I still think it's weird, he said. I know, I answered, but Mom looks happier. You do too. That pisses me off because I wanted to hate this and make it easy. I didn't say anything. He sighed. Just don't hurt her. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure I don't. He was quiet for a moment, then he said, I didn't say you had the rest of your life yet. I laughed. Noted. But if one day you do, he added, I don't want to hear you call me son. I laughed harder. Never happening. Good, because I'll punch you. It wasn't a full blessing, but it was a door cracked open. Mia and I took it slow. We didn't announce anything loudly. We didn't try to prove our love to anyone. We just started living more honestly. I still came by the bakery, but now if the counter was empty, she would reach under it and hold my hand for a few seconds. I still sat on the edge of her kitchen counter even when she scolded me. She still cooked things that sometimes failed spectacularly, and I was still the official taste tester. We argued about age, about Marcus, about the future, about how I kept taking extra shifts until I was exhausted, and how she kept pretending she wasn't tired when the bakery was busy. But we learned each other. I learned that loving a grown woman isn't about saving her from loneliness. Mia didn't need saving. She needed to be chosen without being turned into a shameful secret. Mia learned that love arriving late or arriving in a complicated shape doesn't mean it's wrong. It just demands more courage to protect. One evening, nearly 6 months after the night I discovered the wallpaper, we were back in that same kitchen. Mia refused to cook pasta again. She said the dish had been cursed by history. Instead, we ate toast, butternut squash soup, and cheap red wine. Her phone lit up on the table. I glanced at it out of habit. It was still my photo from the wedding, but this time Mia didn't rush to flip it face down. She left it there, glowing between us like it had never been a secret in the first place. I looked at her. She pretended to focus on her wine. Don't look at me like that, she said. You still kept the photo? Yes. Why didn't you change it? She met my eyes. No teasing. No humor to hide behind. Just honesty. Because I don't want to hide that I want this anymore. I stood up and walked around the table to her. I knelt down right there on the kitchen floor next to the cabinet with the loose handle, next to the basil plant, next to the phone that had started everything. I didn't have a ring. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a beautiful speech. I just took her hand and said, "Then let me make that photo a little more honest. Mia Bennett, will you marry me?" Her eyes went wide. "You're proposing to me in the kitchen?" This is where it all began. No ring? I'll buy one. But if I stand up and go get it first, you'll have too much time to think and start getting scared again. She laughed and cried at the same time. "You're impossible. Is that a yes?" She placed her hand on my face, thumb brushing my cheek. "Yes, it's a yes." Marcus took another 2 weeks to process the news. When he finally called, the first thing he said was, "I need to be clear. I'm not being your best man if it means I have to call you dad. I'd rather cancel the wedding than hear that word come out of your mouth." He went quiet for a second, then laughed. And in that laugh, I knew our friendship would never be exactly the same again. But it was still alive, just growing into a new shape. The wedding was small, no fairy tale romance, no hiding the age gap or the complicated history. Mia wore a soft cream dress, her hair down. Marcus stood in the front row, looking a little uncomfortable, but when his mother walked toward us, he reached out and held her hand for a long moment. "You look happy, Mom," he said. "I am happy." He looked at me and exhaled. "Then don't mess it up." "I won't." "Good. Because I know exactly where Mom keeps her cake knife." After the ceremony, Mia showed me her phone. The wallpaper was still the old wedding photo. No text underneath. Just me, caught in a moment I hadn't even known she was watching. "I still like this picture," she said. "I look pretty decent. Don't get cocky. I like it because back then you had no idea you were already being seen." I looked at the woman who had once been terrified when her secret wallpaper was discovered. Who had once believed her love was something that shouldn't be spoken out loud? Now she stood in front of me like she had finally been given permission to want what she wanted. "Then from now on," I said, "keep looking." She leaned her head against my shoulder, and I understood something simple but true. Sometimes love doesn't start with a grand declaration. It starts with a photo discovered at the wrong moment. A warm kitchen, a ruined pot of pasta, a woman brave enough to admit that a joke had stopped being funny, and a man slow enough to take 5 years to realize he had already been home for a long, long time.